Hello, everyone. Ron Callis with One Firefly and another episode of Automation Unplugged. How you guys doing out there, you guys and gals? So it is currently about 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday, October 25th. It is almost Halloween, so I hope you have some exciting Halloween plans. I actually think my family and I are going to take it easy this year, and my son has a brand new puppy at home, so he says he wants to stay home, and we're going to be handing out candy. So no costumes this year, so if you're anticipating a Ninjago Ron or something wacky like we've done in the past, not this year. But anyway, let's get to it. So I have a very exciting guest, actually a gentleman that I haven't spoken to in a number of years. When he and I were guests on an AV Nation episode, I think it was probably almost 5 or 6 years ago. So I've got Paul Harris from Aurora Multimedia. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Paul. Paul, how's it going, sir?
How you doing?
I am good. How's your Wednesday going today?
It's going very well. I'm pleased to be on the air with you.
Awesome. And where are you recording from? Where is your home base or your offices?
Corporate headquarters in Morganville, New Jersey.
Awesome. Now, just for my audience, some of them may not know you, Paul, and so don't be shy, but I'm actually going to read your bio here just for a moment. So this is where you can blush and be proud of your accomplishments. But it says Paul Harris is the CEO and CTO of Aurora Multimedia. He's been developing bleeding-edge products for the AV industry for over 25 years, starting with the creation of real-time image rotation for video walls to setting the bar for many of the world's firsts with AV over IP and HD-based T. Paul continues to push the limits of technology. He founded Aurora in 1998 and continues to develop integrator-friendly solutions that meet the demand for today and the future. Paul, you've been around. You've been doing this stuff for quite a while, it sounds like.
Yeah, been doing it for quite a very long time.
Now, you and I were chatting just before we went live that you actually, I believe, got your start as a Crestron and an AMX programmer, and now you're running a very successful manufacturing company. So I want to, if you don't mind, I'd love to get the background for my audience just to kind of know who you are and where you came from.
Oh, God. Well, for this industry, you know, once I got out of college, I was doing video walls in a video wall company. So that's actually where I got my first taste of this. And then from designing video walls and projectors, then jumped over to doing AV integration company, where I was doing a lot of the field work, programming, more of the field management element of it. And then while that was going on, then started up Aurora Multimedia with two other gentlemen at the time, a guy by the name of Mike Tordek and Larry Waldron. And now it's currently a two-person company, Mike Tordek and myself. So that's kind of where we got our roots from it. And when we first got started, we did control system programming. We were one of the largest, probably definitely on the East Coast, if not in the country, just doing nothing but large-scale programming projects. And then from there, we started, I merged a company that I had called Zytec, which did paging supervisory systems did it for Lockheed Martin, Lucent Technologies, merged that capability in, and from there we started developing integrator solutions. And that's where we started making the world's first, non-proprietary IP-based control system.
So how long ago was that? So you were programming and you were being hired. Who was hiring you? So back when the company
you're trying to reveal my age is what you're telling me.
No, you can't be a day over. I'm thinking a day over 25. But
that's
so
over 26 years I've been doing this. So I started about 26 years ago out of college, and then as far as doing the programming, Aurora's on its 20th anniversary, so we got incorporated at the end of 97, opened the doors on January 1st of 98. So we've been going at this for 20 years for the Aurora part of it, at least.
Do you still program? Do companies still hire you to do programming of Crestron systems and other?
No, Crestron's our competitor.
So, Crestron's your competitor now. So now are you programming your own systems?
That's what the C stands for, is competitor.
What now?
That's what the C stands for in Crestron is competitors. So they're a competitor.
I'm not even going there. I'm not touching that with a stick. So at what point did you start not just programming things, but making products? And I understand you're big in terms of the AV over IP kind of movement. You were there at the inception, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was other companies who were doing it prior to me. It's just a matter of the take that we do things on. One of the points when we develop our own products is not to be like everybody else. So we don't want to make the same old product that you just see 20 of the same thing, but with a different silk screen on it. So one of the goals whenever we develop a product is to simply make a difference. So we target mostly integrator solutions, things that make a difference that are going to change the way that things work for the better. So when we did for example, when we did the first control system, we knew that the whole world was going towards the IT realm. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create a control engine that was non-proprietary based on standards like HTML and Ajax and Java and so on. And we wanted to make the web engine the control engine rather than have some proprietary engine that just had web capabilities. So that was kind of the start of it. I think that was about 16, 17 years ago we made our first control system. And that was what we called the wacky control system. So it stood for Web Accessible Control Interface. Yeah, we like those silly type of names.
It was really called the wacky control system? That's the product name you went to market with?
Yeah, it was. But you know what? You never forget it. Who remembers the X5001-JR whatever? But you never forget a name like Wacky. So we had products like Ditto and BTL, and you have some fun with it. People like it. They still remember it. Plus, we made cool T-shirts at the time. So if you can't get a good product, you got a good T-shirt.
Amen. I want to get one of those shirts, by the way. I'll send you an Automation Unplugged T-shirt. We'll do a trade.
There you go. We'll have to trade some T-shirts.
That'll be cool. Now, Paul, what sort of changes have you seen, from a high level, maybe a 30,000-foot view, and you can dive down as deep as you want, over this 25, 26-year career on the control system side? I'm assuming you've seen some pretty interesting projects. What changes have you seen happening over that time frame, or that would mean a lot to you to share?
Well, control's been, I wish I could say there's been something revolutionary in control. Control's been a very slow progression. There hasn't been anything that, you look at it, there hasn't been anything monumental. Some people are going into the cloud. There's blessings and curses with doing that. There's all different models that people have tried. For the most part, people are still using 232. They're still using relays and IR and IOs and LAN control. So it really hasn't evolved that much. There was a fad for a while where people were going really large in screens, where you started off with 7-inch touch panels, and next thing you know, they're up to 21-inch touch panels, and then it went right back down again. And it kind of got out of that whole bigger is better touchscreen element. And it kind of the sweet spot settled in at the 7-inch and the 10.1-inch, which most people seem to focus on. But when it comes to control, other than just maintaining libraries and having the same old ports that continue to go along and just making certain that it writes the code and the tools are easy to use, really hasn't progressed all that much. There's really only so much you can do with it.
Now, I want to speak real quick, Paul. We are streaming live here on Facebook, so I want to just speak to our audience. First of all, if you're out there, thank you for watching and listening. And if you are driving, please only be listening and not watching. That would be the safe way. I was just at a number of shows recently, and I had some people tell me in their commutes they're watching and listening. I was like, no, only listen, do not watch. That would not be safe. That is, of course, if you're driving. But if you're out there, please like this. Please share this. I see we already have a couple of shares so that others in the industry can benefit. And then, of course, if you're out there and you have a question for Paul, and if you are watching this here live, if you type into the comments any questions or comments for Paul, I'm going to do my best to read those off and have him address those live. And you know what else I'm going to do here? I'm going to go ahead and, for those of you that like to learn more about Paul's company, I'm just going to drop right here. I'm going to drop in his web address so you can see that there in the comments. There you go. Yeah, it just populated. Cool. So, Paul, you are designing and creating solutions for integrators. Can you talk to my audience a little bit about the R&D process you take? I mean, how do you really define where you're going to spend those energies, and then what's the process that results in you ultimately making a product that you take to market?
Well, I can't give away all our secrets to get to market.
All right, just give me the stuff that's not secret.
I'll give you the basic guts and glory. A lot of people don't always know how products are developed, but what will happen is you'll start off, depending on what you're developing, whether it's, let's say, AV over IP, for example, and you'll find the chipset that you like, and usually that manufacturer will have a reference design, which is a board that proves the chip works, along with some base software to get started. That's why you'll see a lot of similarities in products that are out there. Some companies will literally take that reference design, just copy it exactly as it is, throw a box around it, and off it goes to market. Other people will move connectors around and make it look a little different. And then there's us, where we say, we want to do this, this, and this. They tell us, no, you can't do that. And then we say, watch us. And then usually a few months later, there's something unique that's different. So let's take AV over IP is a nice, easy one for me to target. It's the more recent stuff, and it's something that we really differentiate ourselves with. So we'll take a reference design. Most people are used to transmitters, receivers, otherwise known as encoders, decoders. And we looked at it and said, well, that's not acceptable. We need to make it easier than that. So we made transceivers. So we rearranged the engines the way they were intended to develop, rewrote the code, and we allowed it to reverse direction. So this way there's only one SKU, only one box. So it opens up new capabilities. We actually even have patents pending on some of the stuff that we've done with the transceiver technology. So whereas most people look at it and they say, well, we'll keep it simple, we'll keep the cost down, just an encoder, decoder, we now give you the ability where it's only one box, one wall plate, one SKU. You can also do new things like reverse directions. I can have a wall plate in the front of a room, a wall plate in the back of the room. I could tell one to become an encoder, one to become a decoder, use it as an extender across the room, send it to other rooms, and so on. So that's one example. Other examples would be we took other technologies like Dante and we mixed it in for the first time with other video standards. So whereas people were treating Dante as just an audio standard, we said, well, that's great standard, and why not mix it in with a video standard to break it off? So we did something to that effect. And the list goes on. We purposely go out of our way to do things that make a difference, that simplify the installation, simplify what it takes to inventory the product, to service the product, as well as the overall objective and the techniques that you can use within a facility that you just didn't have prior to it, which gives us our unique edge in our products. So it differentiates us from everybody else. So when somebody's selling an Aurora product, there is not quite anything like it on the market. They don't go apples to apples. It's really apples to oranges, and we can justify why we do the things and how it's going to make a difference.
Does that uniqueness and or proprietary nature of the solutions you're offering, does that enable, I'm just curious from the dealer side, does that let them charge more or make an appropriate margin, maybe that's better in some cases than some other products, or how do you handle or approach that side?
Well, yeah, actually, that's one of the things that's very important to me is one of our big things is to protect the integrator. This industry is broken, and it's just one of the things where I preach it, so I'm going to sound a little bit like a reverend.
All right, I'm going to give you a soapbox, man. Go for it.
So, but the problem with this industry comes from everybody, the manufacturers, the integrators, the consultants, everybody. And where it got broken is at one time, and you'll hear me repeat this here and there and everywhere because it's what I preach, but it's what I believe in, is at one time life was simple for our commercial industry. You had, when you were a commercial integrator, you had a BNC connector. Your quality of your analog circuitry was better and you got to charge a premium for it. And there was a delineation between consumer grade and there was a delineation between what you were for commercial or broadcast. And what happened was with the advent of digital signaling, it got blurred. Commercial never stayed on its own path. What happened was HDMI, DVI, DisplayPort, all these got merged into the commercial world, and there was no longer a delineation between commercial and consumer. So now all these got blurred together, and then what happened is you see a lot of overseas companies that used to make mostly consumer products start saying, hey, we can make it for commercial because it's pretty much the same thing. So it started creating new types of companies that are out there that really aren't manufacturers. They're just somebody possibly working out of their house, happy to make 5 points above, charge as little as they can and OEM it from some company overseas, slap their name on it. You'll see 5 of the same product with 5 different silk screens, and you know they're duplicates, which stuff like that does harm to the industry. Obviously, there's a responsibility of integrators and dealers to try to choose the manufacturers based on the fact that they make their own product, that they support their own product, simply because it justifies the value of the product and what you can do with the product. When you deal with those other type of companies and something's wrong with it, very difficult to get support because they don't really make it. But yes, you get it cheap. But cheap isn't always better for an industry. It may sound appealing, but at the end of the day, it's really doing it a disservice, and it's ultimately affecting their bottom line. So integrators ultimately became installers. Customers would call up and say, but I see the same product online that I could buy for $100 less, so why am I going to buy it from you? So I'll tell you what, I'll go online, I'll buy it, you can come over and install it for me. So integrators used to have these products that they could sell for a decent amount of money, justify their value of supporting it, and go in there, install it, sell the equipment and everything. And now it's a hybrid where some stuff the customer wants to buy and some stuff they buy, and it becomes a mishmash. So that's part of it. The other part is manufacturers have a responsibility. That responsibility, simply put, is originality. That's what we're here for. We're supposed to make products that distinguish ourselves from other manufacturers. Back in the day, life was simple. You had control system companies, you had scaler companies, you had projector companies. Everybody was specialized at something very unique. And now everybody tries to do everything. I mean, we do it too. We're guilty of trying to do a little bit of everything because we're trying to stay competitive with the market for that one-stop shop. But that's fundamentally where it's broken is dealers, consultants need to specify manufacturers, preferably me. Yeah, so there's a self-plug-in promotion right there.
You're allowed to do that.
See, there we go. So I'll do a Crazy Eddie commercial.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a classic. So, but in all seriousness, they should be picking manufacturers that are truly manufacturers that can support their product, fix their own product when things aren't working right, and put back into the industry. Allow people to have the margins that they deserve and they're entitled to. Doesn't mean we have to charge an outlandish price, but there's a difference between underselling and being reasonable. So when you look at our products, we don't sell it at the highest prices that are out there like some companies do. We don't sell it at the lowest price, but we're somewhere in the middle where it justifies its value, but you can make a proper living and justify why we do what we do. We also take measures where we don't allow people to sell online, and if they do put our product online, they have to put MSRP or call in for pricing. We don't like the online sales. That's not good for the integrators, and when we find out about it, usually we'll call up whoever the offending person is, and we try to get them to follow the proper guidelines that we have set forth for what we do. So we're a big advocate to make certain that we protect the integrators, and then registrations, things like that. So yeah, we're very big into that.
Paul, you've chosen, as I understand it, to manufacture, is it most of your products in the U.S.? Is it all of your products in the U.S.? And why did you take that stance?
About over 10 years ago, I think it was, we bought all our own, actually it might have been 12 years ago, we bought all our own equipment. So we have our own pick and place lines, robotics, assembly. We do it all right here in our building in New Jersey. Probably about 90% of it is built right here. Yeah, we have our, what we call the tchotchkes, which is the fill in the blanks for the one-stop shop where, we're as guilty as any other company. We have the OEMs. But our OEM stuff, usually if we OEM it, it's built to our specification as something unique to us, so it's value added. Industry's done that for a long time, but the key is to value add it, make it have its own unique appeal. That's about 10% of our product. The guts and the glory, the HD-based T products, the control systems, the AV over IP, that's all built right here, everything that we do. Okay. We found that one, quality control, response time. I've taken products where we've gone from inception to full out shipping within 4 months. People are like, how the hell do you pull that off? But we do. We have our own. Those are the things I can't tell you how we do it. But
sure.
We've learned to parallel certain tasks. We've learned to speed things up, reuse of circuitry, things of that nature that you standardize on internally. We don't make a product unless we can power through PoE. So we got circuitry that we can repetitively use over and over again to keep that quality up. I mean, like any other company, if you come out with a new product, some people, if they want to be on the cutting edge of a new product, you might run into a few bumps and hiccups at first that we have to plug up. But usually we have a team of programmers that are ready to go, that if anybody reports anything, we're all over it. And usually sometimes within hours, if not a day or two, we'll have that plugged right up. And then typically a product will settle down within a month or two of any of the obvious bugs.
What is the go-to-market strategy for Aurora? Do you guys have like salespeople on the street? Do you work through reps? Do you have stocking distributors? I.e., how does an integrator that wants to, say, purchase your products, how do they do that?
Okay, so in the United States, we go direct to us. So we don't do distribution in the United States. When it's international and outside of the U.S., so Canada, anyway, like Norway, Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, you get the idea. Those are stocking distributors. So to be an international distributor for us, you have to stock locally. You have to have a support person who can locally support the product and so on. So when it's outside the U.S., yes, we do distribution, has to be stocking and local support. When it's inside, they go direct to us, and we set up direct relationships here for them. We have sales reps across the country, and in some areas, especially like our own backyard, we'll deal direct. So it's a combination and it's a mix.
Okay, understood. Now, am I correct in understanding that a lot of your products are IP based, i.e., they're riding over the network?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, just about all of them.
Just about. That's what I thought. I didn't want to. I'm not the most technical person, so I didn't want to overstate the facts. So,
no.
what does the landscape look like out there these days in terms of the integrators? Value and appreciation of having a robust network. And is that what you're seeing out there? Do you see that the integrators completing these installs have addressed the network that your technology is riding on, or is that problematic? And if so, what are you doing about it, or is there anything you can do about it?
It's called education. That's about all you can do about it.
Education, okay.
Education is king right now. Right now, everybody's trying to educate the dealers. I mean, everybody's used to more of a plug-and-play style parameter, but once you get into the network-based devices, you really have to start understanding network switch typologies, how to move bandwidth across switches, how to set up the switches. Probably the number one thing that we have to tech support with is not so much our product, it's more with the actual setting up of the network switch and how they ran the network itself. So getting a better understanding of the network, that is really what is the hardest thing for people to come to grips with. And that's what we've been doing is we recently hired George Tucker. His job and only job in the company is to educate. So he's a sole dedicated educator for our company where he's doing the certification points, the CTS credits for Infocom. He also is creating all the programs, videos on how to set equipment up, how to use it. That's how important it is to us is we literally just have a person just specifically just for the intent of education. That's really makes a better experience. And then there's just features of things that make it easier to deploy these products. So that's another big part here is, just making certain that they have tools that will help them make deployment easier and faster. And so that's a lot of what we focus on.
Yeah, I'm just going to give a plug for George. I'm actually going to have George on Automation Unplugged soon. George, so if you're out there, what's up, sir? Paul, you may or may not know this, but about 10 years ago when I started Firefly, what at the time was Firefly Design Group, I remember George was at Crestron at the time. I think maybe a marketing manager, a social media person, or I don't even know if that was his role, but I knew he knew stuff. So I called him and I said, hey, how do I get Firefly onto Facebook? What do I do and how do I do it? And here we are 10 years later, the largest marketing company in the industry serving the AV industry. So you got a good man there in terms of who you're assigning to get the word out for your company. I'm excited to see what he cooks up for you.
Well, thank you. He actually happens to be sitting right next to me over here.
Is he? Oh, okay. All right. Hey, what's up, George? That's funny. So, well, everyone will hear more from George. George is also one of the men behind AV Nation. And we've had Tim Albright on from AV Nation not too long ago as well. So, Paul, when you're not being Mr. CEO and Mr. CTO of your company, I understand that you have a bit of an appreciation for the mixed martial arts, as do I. So I was curious, is that the case? At least that's what my notes tell me.
Yeah, it is. I do Krav Maga.
Krav Maga. Now that's the that's the Russian form of mixed martial arts, correct?
No, that's Samba, I believe that's called. No, this is Israeli, so we got to give the Israelis
Israeli. Okay, it was either Russian or Israeli. So do you practice Krav Maga? I mean, do you go to the gym?
Oh yeah, every 3 times a week. Constantly going at it. Been doing it for years now. I enjoy it a lot. No competitions for it because not really meant for competition.
Sure. Well, you kill people with Krav Maga, so it wouldn't be a very fun competition.
It's got its perks as far as the things that it teaches you to do and to protect yourself, and to it's a very aggressive form of martial arts. So it's I tell people, if you want to learn how to do Krav Maga, the first step is learn how to hit them where it hurts. Almost every move ends up with hitting them where it hurts somehow, some way. So usually that's what we tell people.
Now, what was your take? This is completely outside of the world of AV, but again, I'm a big fan, so I'm curious if you had an opinion. In the world of UFC, Conor McGregor just fought Mayweather in that big spectacle. I admit I paid $100 on pay-per-view to watch it. It was hard not to, even if I'm not paying $100. Okay, I decided, minutes before, here's my $100. What was your take on that?
I knew he was going to lose.
I think everyone. Well, I guess maybe some people bet he.
No, a lot of people who bet for the odds didn't think he was going to lose. They thought that he had a chance, but I didn't think he was going to lose because he wasn't fully capable. I mean, if you put it the other way around, give him 10 seconds and Mayweather's out. I mean, it's that simple. But he's fighting a game where he was up against a guy who's the master of boxing, knows how to stay away, has the endurance that. Knows how to stretch it out and last it. But actually, one of the great examples of how I kind of knew before the fight he was going to lose is I actually went to a UFC gym to do a few months ago to go in the octagon and to just throw it around, see how I would fare in a UFC gym. And when I started fighting against the person that I was in there with, what happened was I quickly learned that I was spending more time thinking about what not to do than the amount of time of what to do. So a lot of times I was stopping myself from doing things that you're really not supposed to do. And that's, if you look at the fight, a lot of times he would try to go around him and then he'd rabbit punch him on the top of the head. Yeah. And you could see he was trying to get back to some of his roots. And that in itself can hurt you a lot. So I knew that was going to kill him, is after all the years of doing what he does and then trying to not do it instinctively, very hard thing to do.
Yeah, and his training camp was pretty brief as well. I think it was 8 weeks or 9 weeks,
which is not a lot of time. He's a great fighter, and I think with more time he probably could have give him a year and he probably could have done a lot more damage. But with the time he had to train and with the amount of what he does, which is MMA, he actually put on a great show. I thought it was a great fight for what it was. People didn't think it would go as long as it did, and sure enough, it did.
Yeah, I agree. It was a blast. I'm happy it lasted as long as it did, and I felt I got my money's worth, so I wasn't complaining.
Yeah, I didn't think they should have stopped the fight as quick as they did. One thing that the ref didn't have an appreciation for is MMA. They're used to getting pounded. I mean, a 9-ounce glove in MMA is a joke. I mean, you're fighting with 4-ounce gloves. So taking a punch from a 9-ounce is not really going to hurt him all that much. So he could take a little bit of a beating and make it to the next round. I think he could have made it at least a minimum of one more round, maybe gotten another round out of it. That's the one thing that I was a little disappointed is I think they didn't give him enough credit for the type of abuse he could take. And a 9-ounce glove wasn't going to put him down for the count. I think he could have gotten another round out of it.
But he was gassed, don't you agree? I mean, he didn't have much fuel left in the tank.
Oh, he had no fuel, and he would have just covered up and just given himself so he could get a little bit gas back, and then he would have gotten pummeled the next round. But he would have gotten the other round.
Punched him on top of the head a few more times.
Exactly. I think he had in his contract that if he did any type of MMA moves on Mayweather, it was done. It was he'd automatically lose the fight.
He'd lose the fight and give up, I think, a significant portion of his purse.
Hey, you know what? For $30 million, I'll go in that ring.
Dude, Mayweather can punch me all day long. I'll do it
exactly.
for $1 million. Let's go. Everyone has a price. I'll set mine low. That's funny.
There you go.
So, Paul, just one more question for you here for the audience. I appreciate you've spent 30 minutes with me and my audience. And by the way, Andrea just says she loves this talk. She just made a comment. So you got a fan, Paul?
Thanks.
What
good to have fans.
There you go. What product do you have, or products do you have coming around the corner, say in the next months or quarters, that you'd like to share and talk to the audience about? What do you have that's exciting or that has you excited?
Oh, actually, I have new products. Well, the AV over IP, it's progressing, and people, for the most part, know about it if they go on our website. The one I'm actually excited about is my new HD-based T products, where we did a lot of things to it to breathe a lot new life into HD-based T, because a lot of people, I think, don't realize that from a point-to-point perspective, HD-based T is still the way to go. I know some people out there may feel it was just a Band-Aid fix along the way, and I was one of the people guilty of that, but I soon realized as we got into the 10 gig AV over IP, it wasn't going to be that simple, and HD-based T still has a very important role in this industry. So this new series, which we're calling the HT series, we did some things to it which really give it a very keen advantage and refresh HD-based T. So the first thing we did was we gave it 4K, 2K, 60 hertz, 444, so the full 18 gig bandwidth with unshielded cable. I know a lot of people like to hear that one because they're so used to throwing shielded cable in there. We could do it with Cat5e unshielded and go 330 feet, so that was a nice little bonus there. And not just ultra high def, the full Cinema 4K. We added an IP engine in there, so you can use it as IP port expanders. We also threw in the world's first Dante into HD-based T. So now you can use Dante 2-channel or AES 67, as well as there's going to be an option for 8-channel Dante. So surround sound Dante is going to be another industry first for this type of product. We didn't stop there. We put in an audio DSP engine, so we'll have some parametric EQing in there. And then we did another thing, which is if you hook a PoE switch to either side, it'll not only pass all the stuff through from one side to the other, but it will pass the power through. So you can use a PoE switch and have no wall supplies on either side. Makes it for a very clean installation as well. It's also going to have on-screen display. So we made box versions, and we also made a wall plate version in a 2-gang that has a VGA input with 2 HDMI inputs that has the Dante options and all that stuff as well. So we kind of think of it as, I guess think of it as HD-based T on crack. So we'll, it's supercharged if we want it more politically correct. So we supercharged it, and we gave it a lot of life, and we kept the price down really reasonably for all that capability. So you'll find that from a point-to-point perspective, it's actually less money to do that compared to a 10 gig solution that could do something similar. In that. And we'll also, by Q2, we'll have a scalar version of it as well, which will have features like 4K 60 scaling with under a millisecond latency of scale on the scaler itself. So it's going to be 0 frame latency scaling, and that's also up on our website as well. So yeah, we're kind of breathing new life. We're not trying, like I talked about from the beginning, we're not trying to be like everybody else. We're purposely going out of our way to be different.
Awesome. Paul Trond Holst from Norway says hello.
Hey, Trond. He's a great guy, actually. He's from one of our distributors over there.
Is he? And then Amit Pillay.
Oh, wow. I got a lot of my guys out there watching this, huh?
There you go. So he gives you one of these. He's like, you're doing a good job. Nice. Well, Paul, it's been a blast having you on, sir. I know you're a very busy man. I actually, as we were preparing for this, I heard you overheard you preparing for some travel that you have up and coming here right around the corner. So I appreciate you taking a few minutes with me in order to talk about your company and talk about your background. And you were a fun guest to have on here. So really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being on your show.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, guys and gals, I hope you enjoyed another episode, if I can speak clearly, another episode of Automation Unplugged. Believe it or not, this is episode 21. So we're trying to do our very best and get you a new show every week. Got a lot of really fun, exciting guests coming up right around the corner. And I know I've heard from you that you'd like to see a preview list of who's up and coming, and we are working diligently to get that added. So if you want to see the full list of all of the shows and the recordings, if you go to onefirefly.com and go through the menus, I believe it's under the Learn menu, you'll see the link to Automation Unplugged, and you can see all the recordings and the bios for all my guests there. So on that note, make it a great Wednesday. Have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Thank you so much.
Thank you.